It Lurks Below, 1973. Alternate Timeline, Stephen King novella. Audiobook plus comic, chapters 51 through 75. In the fall of 1973, in a timeline not our own, a small press known as Arkham Candle quietly published a 150-page slim paperback novella titled It Lurks Below. It was written by the Stephen King of that timeline under a pseudonym. His authorship was finally revealed in a 1986 reprint edition in that world. It told of a coastal Maine town called Hobbs Hollow, a ruined cannery, and a thing that waited in the deep, taking on the shape of whatever you feared most. Fog, brine, the smell of circus peanuts, and a creepy smile in the dark. What you're about to read is a real, recovered echo artifact from a real, alternate timeline. An early, alternate, raw incarnation of what we would come to know as Stephen King's It in our world. Set against the drowning town of Hobbs Hollow, Maine, these pages offer a chilling glimpse into a darker, stranger path that our history never followed. This second video will present chapters 51 through 75 of the alternate timeline novella. Future videos will continue the chapters until the full 150-page novella is complete in audiobook, visual comic book form. I would highly suggest starting from the first video in the playlist if you got to this one first. Let's dive in. Alternate Timeline Novella, It Lurks Below. Chapter 51, Descent into the Not Self. The ladder was wet. The walls pulsed. The air had no taste. The space below the hatch should not have existed. A spiral stair wound down in impossible geometry, not carved, but grown. Milo turned away after a few steps, but Emma continued. Each step peeled something away, a memory, a belief, a fear. She saw versions of herself along the walls, a baby with black eyes, a girl made of glass, a woman with claws and hollow sockets. She kept walking. At the bottom there was no door, just a curtain of rain. She stepped through. Chapter 52, The Lantern and the Drowned. There was a beach beneath the first mouth. The sky was black. The sea stretched inward instead of out. On the sand sat a lantern. Inside it was a flame made of ink, gently rising and falling like breath. Emma picked it up. It did not burn her. A figure approached, pale, waterlogged, stitched across the chest. Its mouth opened and seawater spilled out. Then words, "You are the bell now. You must ring. The second mouth waits." And behind her, where the cliff should have been, the sea began to rise. It Lurks Below, pages 81 through 84, transcription. Chapter 53, The Second Mouth. Emma did not swim. The ocean lifted her. The sea pulled her backward through the air, past stone and memory, and deposited her at the base of a second cliff, smooth, vertical, and cold. A slit appeared in the rock. This was not an opening, it was an incision. She entered. Inside was not stone, it was tooth. The corridor pulsed with an organic rhythm, like a breathing throat. Veins bulged under slick walls. The lantern she held dimmed, then pulsed in time with the walls. Words formed in her mind. "What walks here forgets its shape." She whispered back, "Then I'll remember for both of us." Chapter 54, Library of the Drowned. Beyond the throat corridor lay a chamber of stacked bookshelves, all made from driftwood, seaweed, and bone. The books whispered when opened, not with text, but sound. Milo, now somehow beside her, opened one. It screamed with his own voice, reliving the day his sister drowned. Emma opened another and heard herself at 7, begging her father not to leave her to go on a months-long voyage. A third book spilled seawater and hair. These were not written memories. They were anchored, catalogued trauma, drowned selves preserved in inkless pages. One book had a mirror on its cover. Milo touched it and collapsed. Chapter 55, Milo's Absence. When Emma turned, Milo was gone. Only his shadow remained, stretched across the shelf like spilled oil. The flame inside her lantern flickered, then went dark. She walked without light, guided by heartbeat and echo. Her own name began to sound foreign. The library trembled. Something massive moved above, or below, the shelves. Then came the sound. A slow, wet clapping, like hands made of meat. A voice, hers and not hers, crooned from between the stacks. You came down to find him, but he came down to become me. Emma ran. She did not remember how long. Chapter 56. The shape he took. At the exit, if it was an exit, she found a pool, clear, impossibly still. Her reflection looked back and smiled. The reflection stepped out. It wore her face but moved like a puppet, jagged, too fluid. It spoke in Milo's voice. "I didn't mean to, but you left me behind," Emma screamed. It echoed before she opened her mouth. The lantern reignited on its own. The copy hissed and convulsed, melting into a pool of hair and ash. Emma knelt beside it, whispering, "We remember differently. That's how I know I'm still real." She passed into the next tunnel. It lurks below. Pages 85 through 88. Transcription. Chapter 57. The Quiet Street. Emma emerged from the tunnel into daylight. Not sunlight, just daylight. She stood in the middle of a suburban cul-de-sac, lawns manicured, sprinklers ticking. A bicycle lay abandoned on its side. "No, no, no," she whispered. "We're not back. This isn't back." A mailman passed her. His face was smooth skin, no features, just a stamp where his eyes should be. From each house, voices echoed. "Emma, breakfast is ready." "Milo, come inside. Don't forget your mask." She backed away, but the world rippled, as if she had stepped on a projection screen. Chapter 58. Face the Hollow. One house, her childhood home, loomed larger than the others. Its door pulsed like a heartbeat. Above it, a wooden sign read, "The Hollow Remembers." Emma stepped inside. Every room was a memory. Every object was misplaced. Photographs blinked. Her childhood drawings wept blood. At the kitchen table sat her father, her mother, and a boy wearing Milo's skin, but not his eyes. They all turned to her. Her father's mouth opened sideways. Her mother spoke in reverse. The Milo thing smiled with all its teeth. "We kept dinner warm," Emma screamed. The table caught fire, but the flames burned upward toward her. Chapter 59. Waking isn't exit. She awoke, gasping, back in the sunken chamber. Milo lay beside her, breathing shallow, but his eyes were open. He wasn't blinking. "Emma," he croaked, "where did you go?" She couldn't answer. Her mouth was filled with sand. All around them, the chamber had changed. What once looked like coral or cathedral now pulsed like womb walls, and in the center, something enormous stirred, not yet seen, only felt. Milo rose slowly. "We didn't escape," he said. "We just remembered the trap." Emma looked up. Above them, the ocean ceiling opened its eyes. Chapter 60. It knows her name. The creature was not a beast. It was not even a god. It was a recognition. The moment Emma looked upon it, it spoke through her body, bypassing sound. "I was born in your forgetting. I live where names are lost. You carved me from grief. You fed me with escape." Emma collapsed, not from pain, but from sudden, overwhelming memory. She saw every lie she'd told herself about Milo. She saw every drowning. She saw the first loop, and the next, and the next. The lantern shattered. The hollow began to breathe. It lurks below. Pages 89 through 92. Transcription. Chapter 61. The lantern's core. Emma's fingers bled where the lantern had burst, yet no wound remained. Instead, she held a shard of something older, not glass, not metal. "Milo," she whispered. "This was never just a light." He nodded slowly. "It's the flame they took from us before we were born." Around them, the breathing walls began to tighten, rhythmic, ritualistic. The chamber was contracting, not collapsing, but birthing. Emma placed the shard over her chest. If it burns through me, so be it. The shard sank into her skin without a mark. The breathing stopped. Chapter 62. The Memory Compass. With the shard embedded, Emma could see the world as it was meant to be. The creature no longer loomed above. It was inside everything, a shape in the rocks, a rhythm in the tides, a compass carved from childhood nightmares and the taste of salt. It's not hunting us, she realized aloud. It's following the path we set. It's our own memory, twisted and starved. Milo stared ahead, his voice barely audible. Then we lead it home. From beneath the chamber, a staircase rose, impossible geometry, spiraling downward while leading up. They descended. Chapter 63. Voices of the Drowned. Each step echoed with forgotten names, not the dead, the unremembered. Children who vanished from docks and bathtubs, women who sleepwalked into the sea, fishermen whose boats returned without a sound. And among them, Emma heard her own voice, aged, cracked, singing, "You are not lost, my love. You are the wave that stayed." The spiral ended in a vast amphitheater of bone. At its center, a pool, dark, still, rimmed with salt. Milo stepped toward it. Emma stopped him. Only one of us comes back. Chapter 64. The Bargain. The pool shimmered, reflected not light, but moments. Emma saw her mother's face the night she disappeared, saw Milo as a boy, holding a paper boat, saw herself, not drowning, but letting go. "I will take your forgetting," the pool spoke. "And in return?" she asked. "You remember everything. The cost was not death. The cost was no longer hiding." Emma stepped into the water. It rose, not over her body, but through her, flooding her mind with every iteration, every echo, every drowning that had ever happened beneath the hollow. She did not scream. She opened her eyes. It Lurks Below. Pages 93 through 96, transcription, Chapter 65, Spiral Bloom. The pool was gone. Emma stood on the docks of Hobbs Hollow, not as it was, but as it had been, and will be again. Children played, echoing her laughter. Boats bobbed in water that did not breathe. For the first time, the sea was still. Milo sat beside her, though he had never left the spiral. "What year is it?" she asked. He smiled. "That depends on which lantern you lit." From the clouds above, a spiral unfurled, not of storm, but of memory, and within it, shapes began to descend. Chapter 66. What the Town Forgot. The Hollow had always known, not consciously, not in words, but in the curvature of the shore, the way certain names faded from town records, the cracks in the church bell that chimed on fogless nights. Emma walked through the streets as they reformed. Children who never grew up, parents who never wept, a town caught between tides and timelines. She saw herself on the school steps, the younger Emma reading a book with no title, and behind her, a man in yellow boots, watching, waiting. "I remember you," she said. He removed his hat. "And I never forgot." Chapter 67. The Archivist's Oath. He led her to the edge of town, where salt met earth, and memory took form. The archivist's shack was a ruin of driftwood and film reels. Inside, the shelves were lined with objects no one claimed: a red marble, a cassette tape labeled "Do Not Wake," a child's tooth sealed in glass. "These aren't relics," he told her. "They're anchors." Emma touched the marble. A wave of grief washed over her. The tooth brought joy, the tape, fear. "I'll keep the oath," she said. "I'll bear the stories no one else can." He nodded. "Then Hobbs Hollow is yours." Chapter 68. Below it waits. The sea was silent. The creature, the memory, the thing without a face, had not been destroyed. It had been offered a name, and with that name, a form, and with that form, a place. Emma stood at the shore. "You will not drown us again." She placed the lantern in the sand. Its shards still glowed from within her chest. The wind shifted. A single word whispered across the waves. "Emma." She turned. No one was there, but the hollow remembered. And for the first time in 100 years, it did not rain. Facility AI note: to try to clear up the confusing structure of the novella, structure breakdown. It Lurks Below, 1973, Act 1, The Intrusion, chaotic vignettes. The it presence emerges sporadically. Strange events unfold, some subtle, some terrifying. Milo and Emma's journey to the Three Mouths becomes a midpoint climax. Act 2, The Echoes After. It seems to vanish. Instead of relief, the town is more unsettling, as though the absence left something hollow. New phenomena emerge. Memories fragment, objects behave oddly, townsfolk act like dream versions of themselves. Act 3, Glyphs in the Well. Flashback-style entries, often written like diary fragments or whispered recollections, reveals that the kids tried to seal it using 9 glyphs dropped into the well. The text is ambiguous as to whether or not the kids succeeded. It Lurks Below. Pages 97 through 100, transcription. Chapter 69, The Lantern Child. They called her the Lantern Child in the years that followed, not because she carried a light, but because she became one. Children would gather on the rocks of Hobbs Hollow, listening to Emma's stories. Not just the ones she lived, but the ones the hollow itself had buried. Stories of those who vanished, wept, returned. She never told them what the spiral truly was, only that it could be opened and closed. And if ever it began to open again, you light the lantern from within. She taught them not to fear the sea, but to watch it. Chapter 70, Milo and the Lighthouse. No one knew who lit the beacon the night the fog returned, but Emma did. She found him in the lighthouse, older but no less mischievous, repairing the gears, whispering to the waves. "They say we're not real," he said, "that we're figments." Emma touched his shoulder. "Then let's be the kind they remember." The beam sliced the spiral that night, a circle of memory etched in sky. Milo faded the next morning. He left his boots behind, and a map drawn on the inside of his coat. Where the spiral began, it blooms again. Chapter 71, The Night with No Stories. 1 year later, the hollow fell silent. No stories, no lanterns, no fog. Emma stood by the sea and listened. Nothing. She returned to the spiral pool. Empty. The barn. Gone. The archivist's shack. Burned. She began to forget. Until, in a dream, she heard, "The hollow does not forget, but it waits for the right voice." And so she wrote everything, every horror, every bloom, every loss. She buried the pages in glass jars along the shore. One of them would be found in 1971. This book is that jar. Chapter 72. And Below. No chapter title. No page number. Just one image. A child's drawing. A spiral. A lighthouse. A face beneath the waves. Scrawled in crayon. "I don't dream anymore. It dreams me." And beneath it, smaller. "Don't follow the bloom. It lurks below." Pages 101 through 104, transcription. Chapter 73, The Bell Beneath. It began ringing again in the spring. 3 chimes, then silence, always at dusk. At first, the town chalked it up to rusted pipes or the echo of a buoy offshore. But Emma knew better. She traced the sound to the cove where the fisherman's chapel had once stood, long since swallowed by the tide. The ground there was damp, pulsing. The water refused to freeze. That night she dreamed of Jonah's bell, The one the hollow forged in iron and buried when the first child went missing. It was never meant to ring again. And yet, it did. Chapter 74. Siltmouth's Return. The journal Emma kept after the events of '69 was found waterlogged, but legible. One entry was dated October 13th, 1972. He is not gone. The sea only took him in. The spiral opens backwards. She described a shape seen from her attic. Not a man, not a fish, not a memory. Siltmouth, but changed. It had no voice now, only breath, a wheezing that rattled windows and dried the marrow. No longer interested in fear, now it wanted familiarity. It hovered outside the hollow elementary playground for 3 nights. No one else saw it, but several children stopped sleeping. Chapter 75. Jonah's Teeth. Emma returned to the bone pier. Only fragments remained, scorched and scattered, but beneath a half-buried plank she found them. Teeth, not human, not animal, twisting inward like petals, like the bloom. She took them to Mr. Hollis, the town's retired biology teacher. He went pale. These are dream-etched, made from sleep bone. He tried to burn them. They wouldn't catch fire. They pulsed in rhythm with the tide. She mailed one to a university in Arkham. It never arrived. Instead, the envelope returned empty, but inside was a single word scratched into the lining: remember. End of chapters 51 through 75. Novella will continue with chapters 76 through 100 in the following video.